either A, brought her in, or B, made her a target in the investigation to some degree where she's cooperating or they're letting her know that you can be charged too. So they're definitely going to have these people ready to go and testify in this situation.
Yo, can you imagine how 50 Cent feels about this? His baby mama is helping Diddy do his dirt, bro. That's some messed up shit, bro. That's your baby mama. That's wow.
Well, Fresh, here's the thing, though. If I'm 50, we have to remember the timeline of things. So 50 goes on his rant after it's being known that she's mentioned in a lawsuit. What does she do? She actually accuses 50 Cent of R-wording her.
Yep.
Like, let's be clear. What 50 does? Okay, he files a lawsuit. At first, she didn't delete it. Then she deletes the post. Supposedly, and I could Google it, I think 50 is not going forward with the lawsuit, particularly for defamation, which we all know, if anybody knows 50 Cent history, if you lie about him, he's going for that money. But here's the bigger plight that 50 might have to play, and I guess this is where I would ask Myron. Well, if she's either a witness or a potential part of this Diddy investigation / indictment, I think what Diddy and most men would find the biggest win is not suing your baby mama who's broke without you paying her for defamation. The best thing would be showing to family court, hey, maybe I deserve custody.
Damn.
My baby mama is a sex worker who's named in this indictment federally. And no, is that a play?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we all know that it's a lot harder for men to get custody of their children in family court, but showing that she's being a subject of or indicted in a federal sex trafficking case is absolutely going to swing it in the father's favor, especially someone like Diddy who has the resources to take care of the kid. So, yeah, I mean, 50, that's definitely a play.
50,
for 50.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Clever.
Man, yo, listen. So they're saying tomorrow. Yo, I'm wondering what this So I also threw this into the air. I want you to react to it. So if you listen to some of the other lawsuits, they tried to say, like, even, a few lawsuits, they were like, oh, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. But they were trying to bring in Justin Combs into it. Is it possible? And what do you think the odds are that any maybe additional indicted people end up being family, as opposed to, I could see like maybe a worker like, hey, your job was to, get the bitches here or whatever. But if his sons, even one of them, I don't think, even though, Christian Combs is a civil case, but if any of them gets caught up in the criminal case, how does that look?
I mean, it's possible if they assisted their father in any way. I mean, some of these charges seem to be kind of old, so they might have been children when it went down. But it's definitely possible that his kids can get wrapped up in the indictment as well. What I predict is more than likely, Diddy and probably some of his closest associates were indicted in this one. We'll have to see if any of them are taken into custody. But obviously, he was the main guy that they were focused on getting, arrested right away. So, we'll only know until tomorrow. I mean, he's going to have initial appearance in front of a magistrate tomorrow morning at some point, depending on whenever they have wherever they do the initial appearances or whatever time they do them. But typically, a lot of places, it's in the morning at the district court.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if Diddy's, this is what I've kind of heard out and about, but what if Diddy's son invited girls over to the crib that were underage? And when they were over there, maybe after a couple of days, things happened. Would they be considered accomplices at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, if they're inviting underage girls over?
Because I know a girl that talks about being there for a couple days. She's over the age though. But I'm just saying, like,
then that's gonna be a lot
girls
harder.
were not.
Yeah, I mean, if the thing is with the feds and human trafficking, when the kid is under 18, it's automatic. It's like a slam dunk. It's easy. Once they're of age, then it becomes tougher because now you got to prove certain things.
But what if Diddy's kids are underage too? Like, is that okay?
Oh, you're saying like his kids being underage and helping him?
Yes.
Oh,
Would
That's a good question. So would he'd get in trouble for that?
Yeah, would they get in trouble with the kids if they're underage too as well?
I mean, there's probably a state charge for that, like child neglect or something like that. But at a federal level, I don't think the kids, if they're underage, like they're not. The feds really stay away from prosecuting juveniles.
Okay.
They try their best not to. It's very difficult to prosecute a juvenile, at the federal level at least.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
That's tough though.
Wow. This is it's clear. It's clear. Cassie's
You should go to New York tomorrow and like go sit in the courtroom if you can. His initial appearance.
You should.
Well, here's the thing. So you tell me. So this is a sealed case. Is it possibly that is it going to be in an open courtroom? Like we don't know. Like I mean,
it is. So everything in federal court is open unless it's like a FISA court. No, it's going to be open. We just got to figure out. I'm going to look right now on Pacer and see. Obviously the case is sealed right now, but they're going to unseal it. It's just a matter of like figuring out when they do initial appearance.
I looked on Pacer. The case isn't there, which I'm guessing if the initial indictment isn't there, you just can't find the case. But I'm pretty sure it'll appear in the morning. But there isn't a case that originates in the last like week for Diddy.
Yo, can you dispel this myth, bro? They're saying that we went to a Diddy party, which we did not. Please tell them, bro.
Oh, me? Hell nah, nigga. The fuck? No. And I'm gonna be honest with you, is like this is where we're gonna get like so much more information from this indictment. All right, but by the way, and still continuing off what you're saying, Fresh. But I also want to ask Myron is like this, and we see all the time in like these gang or sometimes RICO cases with gangs. Obviously, we see maybe sometimes an indictment, then we see a superseding indictment. Sometimes they'll bring more shit into it. Do we think that whatever indictment that get unsealed tomorrow, that's it? What he's facing, like, right? Or are they still maybe trying to cook up something? That they could try to hit him with, or whatever we see unsealed tomorrow, that's gonna be the mountain that he has to climb.
Yeah, no, they can absolutely do a superseding indictment. They did it for R. Kelly.
Did they?
They did. They did a superseding indictment from, I think, later on. And for the audience that's wondering, a superseding indictment, guys, is nothing more than you get him indicted right by the grand jury the first time, and then you can come back. And I know 6ix9ine did a superseding indictment. Let's say during the course of the investigation,
they added the niggas who kidnapped him.
Exactly. So you can come back and you can do a superseding indictment and charge other conspirators or add charges to it. You convene with the grand jury again. They do another meeting. You indict them again, and you add more charges or add more targets.
Hey, this is gonna sound like a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Ballpark me on this. Me, classic pocket watcher. Listen, I'm the best when it comes to pocket watching. I love doing it. What are we thinking of? Like, I look at the raids. We got to think the manpower. We're convening a grand jury for like 3 months. This is Diddy. What do you think the feds are in terms, obviously, like, we're talking about budget here and resources, but how much you think they have put behind this case so far?
A couple million easily, bro.
Really?
I mean, to do a wiretap, to give you guys kind of an idea, to do a wiretap for a month, right, cost about $50,000.
Really?
So, damn. And that's just a wiretap, right? But like, but it's very expensive to run an investigation between, surveillance, doing warrants, going out and interviewing a lot of these witnesses that probably aren't in New York City. You have to go out to other places to interview them. And obviously with a case like this, as a case agent, I want to make sure that I'm out there to do some of these interviews. They've spent, doing surveillance, tracking his assets. That's the other thing too, is they're probably going to try to identify someone like this. They're going to identify his real assets for forfeiture, right? What they can and can't take. Doing the search warrants where they did a multiple search warrants. They did one in Miami and they did one in LA at the same time, simultaneous search warrants. The amount of coordinating between 2 different field offices to do it, actually 3 field offices, because New York ran the investigation. You have to send a collateral case to Miami, then you got to send a collateral case to LA. So off rip, I already know that they got 3 open investigations on Diddy in 3 different jurisdictions. and 3 different field offices, and that's 3 different USA's offices that are dealing with it as well, because you have to get search warrants in those jurisdictions, which means you have to go through the United States Attorney's offices in those different jurisdictions. You can't write a judge can't give you a search warrant in the Southern District of New York for a house that's in the Southern District of Florida. You need to go to a judge in the Southern District of Florida to get that warrant signed. So that means more than likely a Miami agent had to swear out the affidavit down here, unless the case agent flew down, but he probably did. So, yeah, man, we're millions
It's
of dollars.
probably a lot of
easily
flights and shit, right?
What was that? Sorry?
I said it's probably a lot of flights and shit, right? Wow.
Oh yeah, dude. For a case like this, they were probably flying all over the country to interview witnesses and everything like this, because this case is what I would call like more of a historical case. So it's going to be heavily reliant upon witness testimony, which means you got to track these motherfuckers down, find out where they're at, interview them, do multiple interviews, make sure you get the story straight. You're preparing them and everything else like that. So, it's going to be tough. And then obviously they're doing great. They've had the grand jury convened for months now for this particular investigation, bringing witnesses in, right? Because we know that they've had this grand jury open now for a few months. Yeah. And I assume that was predominantly to get a lot of these witnesses in to give their testimony so that they can get a true bill of indictment.
Hey, humor me for a second, and I'm going to be a little bit into the conspiracy theory lane, but I'll just ask a question that I've seen people ask before. What is the possibility that, okay, Diddy could possibly, okay, he's taken into custody, but he could probably wiggle and squeeze his way out of this by saying, hey, I got a bigger fish for y'all to fry. Hey, have y'all heard about my boy Sean Carter, Jay-Z, Jigga Man, or I'm not saying that him, but anybody, like just somebody else that y'all could be like, I could throw somebody else under the bus for you to get me out of this shit. Hey, you ever heard of Clive David? Like, do you think that possibly the feds will be down to say, hey, Diddy, I think you could give us a bigger fish? Or are we saying, nah, Diddy's a big fish enough? It will look crazy if they gave him a deal to give up somebody else.
Sure. And I can explain this because this is kind of a more nuanced question when it comes to informants and, hierarchy and stuff like that. So typically when you open up a case, right, you open up a case under what's called a file title, right? It's going to be your main target and then et al., right? Which means basically him and whoever else is involved. Guaranteed this case is probably Sean Combs et al. He's the main guy, and then everyone falls underneath him, right? If you look at the 6ix9ine case, it was Mel Murder was the top guy.
Oh yeah, no, actually you're right. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
His real name, I forget his real name, Jamel or something like that. Mel Murder was his name, but the case title in 6ix9ine's case was Mel Murder. So this is how it works when it comes to informants. So I'll give you guys kind of a thing for your audience here. If you're going to cooperate with the government, if you're going to cooperate, you're going to be an informant, etc. You better not be the fucking top guy, because more than likely when you're the top guy, they're not going to cut you a deal because you're the file title, you're the main dude, unless you have some crazy fucking person that you're going to give up. Maybe it's a dirty cop, a dirty agent, some shit like that, not a dirty politician. It's very unlikely that you're going to get time off when you're the file title. Now, what I will say is, and this is why 6ix9ine got such a great deal, 6ix9ine was what I would call like the sweet spot, right? He was in a position of power, but he wasn't so high up where he couldn't necessarily work a deal, but he was also not so low where he didn't know the inner workings of the gang. Since he was the rapper and the guy that made the money, he was in the right smack dab in the middle where he was rubbing elbows with all the top dudes, so he knew what was going on at the upper echelon, but at the same time, he knew the guys on the lower level, and he was able to give information on them. That's why he was able to give information on, was it Kuda? Right, Kuda B, and get time off despite him giving an order for him to go shoot at Chief Keef. And he was also able to give information on the guys that were above him, and that knocked off his sentence significantly because he was in the perfect position since he dealt with the money. And this is typically winds up happening whenever you're doing a criminal investigation. The guys that deal with the money almost always are some of the best informants because they're dealing with all different components of the organization, because when you're the financier, you got to deal with everybody. So he was in that great spot to give people above him and below him. But when you're the top guy, it's very difficult to get a deal and get cooperation points because you're the file title. Unless you're able to give like some extraordinary target, a corrupt individual who's in a position of public trust, it's going to be very difficult for you to get time off.
Wow. And by the way, chat, you guys see as posted on DJ Akademiks TV, the Instagram and the Twitter account says USA Damian Williams, which is the U.S. attorney. He said earlier this evening, federal agents arrested Sean Combs based on a sealed indictment filed by the Southern District of New York. We expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning, and we'll have more to say at that time. By the way, here's the thing. I don't know if you've seen this, and shout out to my boy Aiden. I know Aiden's probably hitting my phone right now, but he's live right now with Sneeko. I think this is Convy, Cuffham, and Fousey. And Fousey supposedly said that one of his boys went to a Diddy party, and they invited him to Diddy's room, where I guess Fousey's friend claimed that, and I'm sorry to be bringing other people's names into this, but it says Trigger Trey, a.k.a. Trey Songz, was straddling and sitting on Diddy's lap, making out with him. Let me just play this real quick. I think you guys should be able to hear it.
I could say something about a Diddy party right now, but I don't know the rules of the game if I'm allowed to say it.
Say it. You'll be okay.
One of my boys, a social media influencer, this was early, back in like 2018.
What's one of your boys?
I'm not gonna expose him because he said some viable shit, but he was at a Diddy party and they invited him to Diddy's room. He walks in, Trey Songz was sitting on Diddy's lap making out with him, and they asked him if he wanted to join.
What the fuck?
That gotta be no, ain't no way. Ain't no way.
They're all gay. They're all undercover gays. I promise you that.
Yo, that's crazy.
I promise you that.
That is crazy.
I could say something.
Wait.
That is crazy, bro.
Oh my God.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Not Trigger Trey, man.
Yo.
Not Trigger Trey, bro.
Okay, so how do you draw the line? And I want you to keep your investigator hat on. How
Sure.
do you draw the line between, okay, this is industry? Because here's the thing. There's been a lot of, it's so funny that half of these niggas love Diddy parties. And then you hear something like, oh, we just never seen that, whatever. But it's like, Diddy party is like a spectacle. It's always been in hip hop. If you're an investigator, how do you draw the line between, oh, okay, this is just some harmless fun shit, or maybe not harmless fun shit, but shit we shouldn't, spend time or expend our energy into, or resources trying to like hunt down, versus this is the true crime that's happening here? Like, how do you pick that out? Because it appears that Diddy was, he was nonstop. Like, he was on some take that shit.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing, right, and I'll tell you this from me wearing that hat, like you asked before, keep your investigator hat on. And this is gonna sound very fucked up, but I would only go after shit that matter from a prosecutorial standpoint, what I can actually prove, right? And some people might say, oh, well, that's messed up, man. But the reality is, at the federal level, you have a higher threshold to prove a case and get prosecution and prove it guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, the feds don't lose for a reason, because they take their time and they go after the things that they can actually prove. So in this situation, some dudes, doing some questionable activities, etc. Is that going to be as sexy to an AUSA a lot of the times? Probably not. But if you got a female victim who's underage and she's saying that, hey, I was assaulted and I was GR'd, right, by a group of men, well, that's going to be a lot easier to sell to the U.S. Attorney's Office for a prosecution. And at the end of the day, guys, right, getting your case accepted by the AUSA's office for prosecution is not as easy to do as people think it is, because they have a lot of discretion what they take and what they don't take. So you need to go after the things that are tangible, the things that you can prove, and the things that is going to get their attention.
Yo, ain't no way you believe that, bro.
What?
You believe that?
Believe what?
Trey Songz believe that? No way, bro. You don't believe that, do you?
I mean, I'm not getting charged, but I think I do have the right to be silent. Anything, I'm gonna just. Yeah. No.
And
the only reason why, and by the way, I want to expound before anybody say some weird shit like, "Oh, Atkinson." No, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sexually, I've heard many things about many people in this industry. Some, and a lot of them happen to be sex symbols. So there's, I never want to throw nobody under the bus, because I don't never want nobody to do that to me. But Trey Songz is a very, very, like, there are conversations about him. I won't say illegal, but conversations about him into different things. And I'm not saying he's homosexual. I'm not saying anything else. What I'm saying is that when I hear sexually explorative like conversations and it mentions Trey Songz or Diddy, I'm not gonna be like, this is the first time I've ever heard it. So
Right.
I can't jump out and be like, oh, I don't believe. I don't know what to believe. Truth be told.
Okay.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to tell my people we got like 13K on YouTube. Guys, come on over on Twitch, twitch.tv/FreshFit. We're trying to build that thing up, as y'all know. Twitch.tv/FreshFit Podcast. We're having a discussion with Ak, obviously, on this situation, which, Ak, you're asking some really good questions here. You're like really making me kind of go back in time, like, okay, what would we do in this situation? But I think it's very important for the audience to know, like my prediction here is that they wouldn't have pursued this case so aggressively and done the multiple state search warrants, seize all the items, convene the grand jury. I predict that they're probably going to have anywhere between 10 to 30 different witnesses. They wouldn't have done all this and then go ahead and use the RICO statute, which I predict is what we're going to see in a grand jury indictment tomorrow, had they not been sure that they got this guy dead to rights. I predict that Diddy's going to have to probably take a plea deal. I know that he's, liquidated a lot of his assets so that he can go ahead and fight this case, because not only does he have this criminal case, but he also has a multitude of civil cases going against him. I think this Danny DeCane chick just literally just did a civil case against him recently for sexual assault. So,
and by the way, I also, and I don't want to, I'm hoping, because this is like the high price you pay of being in media.
Yeah.
There is 2 individuals that sent over documents to me, and I'm not going to publish them or give them any light, but other than this potential mention right here, they have served Diddy, 2 other individuals, with notice to file lawsuit. It's like hey, we're going to file a lawsuit, but we can start settling. And there's people, there's 2 individuals currently who are at that point, and he has about like 20 cases now, like on a civil level.
And everyone's gonna come because they notice now, especially now that he's gotten arrested. Like, I would not be surprised if he doesn't get served with a few more of these, because what they're gonna look at it like, okay, he's not in a position to fight these cases because he's gonna obviously allocate most of his resources to his criminal defense team. So he's going to be more than likely willing to kind of play ball and give us what we want, $1 million here, $2 million here, blah, blah, blah. So I definitely predict that he's going to, even more people are going to kind of come out the woodwork and try to sue him civilly so they can get a quick payout, because he's not going to have the time or the ability or even resources to fight this stuff in court in a civil case.
Okay, let me give you 2 scenarios. First scenario, if you're Diddy at this point, and obviously this goes into, criminal law, so, obviously you have your experience there, but like maybe not be your forte. Is it something where you might be like, hey, listen, for all the civil cases, you guys get pushed to the back burner. Everything focuses on the criminal. And at worst, if it gets to be too overwhelming, as long as we potentially beat or at least try to neutralize as much as possible the criminal elements. Remember, these are civil cases. You could always file bankruptcy.
Yeah. So you're asking me, like, as a former investigator, like, what would we focus on, the criminal case? Is that what you're asking?
Well, that's why I said I'm asking you to get into almost maybe a defense attorney or a civil defense attorney hat, like a strategist hat. If you're Diddy, what do? Do you be like, hey, fuck the civil cases, let's focus on
far to the criminal defense case? I would allocate all my resources to that, because if you go to jail, you're fucked, right? And he's looking at very serious time here, guys. Like, he could die in prison if he's convicted of this stuff. I know they gave R. Kelly 30.
Okay. Oh, by the way, could you break that down, because that was a question being asked to me a lot. What is he facing? And I said essentially a life sentence. I'll Google his age now. You could tell me, I don't know if you know off the top of your head what some of these things that we've predicted like hold in terms of potential penalty. But Diddy age, he's currently 54 years of age. He's going to turn 55 in literally 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from now, or actually 2.5 weeks, he's going to be 55. No. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Whoa, I'm definitely wrong. It's a month and 2 weeks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I predict that he's going to be facing a significant amount of time here where you can die in prison, man, easily.
Really?
Like, they gave
over
our
10. let's go ballpark. I know we're spitballing here, and I know you love being on.
I predict if he's found guilty. Let's go with two scenarios. Let's go. He goes to trial.
Yes.
He goes to trial. Now, for those that are unaware, when you go to trial, 95% of cases, right, almost always plead out. You almost never go to trial. But if you go to trial and you force the government to prepare for a trial, you're going to probably deal with the higher end of whatever sentence, the charges that you're getting hit with come with. So if he goes to trial and loses, there's a very high likelihood he'll get easily somewhere between 20 to 40 years, right?
Wow.
If he goes to trial for this. If it's what I'm thinking, racketeering, sex trafficking, etc., yes, low end 15, higher end 40 easily, right? If he goes to trial. If he pleads guilty, 10 to 30 in that range if he pleads guilty. And cooperates.
Wow. I'm looking at some of these things. Hold on.
For him to get any less time than 10, he'd have to give up a fucking dirty NYPD officer or a public official or somebody big for him to get less time, because he's the main target. So anytime you're the main target of investigation, it's very difficult for you to get time reduced, because you get hit with a sentencing enhancement called leader organizer of the organization.
What about Jay-Z?
I mean, he would have to give like significant stuff that leads to an actual indictment.
So
he'd have to real evidence.
From what we know, in the federal, and by the way, correct me, you can jump in at any time. You're more well versed than me. When it comes to federal, charges and going through the federal process, they have these mandatory minimums that's unlike any other state, where the only way, at least from my knowledge, they could go below would be if you have usually a 5K1 letter. And that's the snitch scarlet letter, which means
proper letter. Yep.
Yes, a queen for a day, whatever the case is. 6ix9ine had a 5K1 letter that allowed the judge to go beyond, because 6ix9ine was facing, if we're thinking about consecutive on some of these things, he was facing like 46 years.
Let's explain what a proffer is and a 5K is, right?
Please.
So I've done a million of these, right? So a proffer, for you guys that are wondering, or safety, it's also known as a safety valve in drug investigations. Basically, the individual's typically been charged or whatever it may be, and they have information that can be beneficial to your investigation that can, lead to other arrests, whatever. You bring the individual in, they sign a proffer letter with their defense attorney, and what happens is they can give you information where it can incriminate them, but it can't be used against them. So they can totally tell you whatever they need to tell you, unless it's like a very, very serious crime of violence or whatever it may be. But most of the time, everything is kind of, on the table. You're protected. You get almost full immunity for a day. And you're able to kind of just say whatever you got to say.
By the way, it's called queen for a day. Usually, like, on a layman's terms type of thing.
Some people call it queen for a day, king for a day. That's also another term for it. But it's all, 5K, proffer, safety valve, all generally the same thing with little nuanced differences. You come in, you sit with the agent and the prosecutor, and then you're there with your defense attorney, and you provide this information. You sign a proffer letter. However, the deal goes out the window if you do one of two things. A, you lie, right? That will mean that it's defunct, and then they can actually charge you for those crimes. And then B, you need to provide substantial assistance. They use the term substantial assistance to the government in the course of the investigation. I'll just spell it out for you guys. You pretty much need to fucking help them get other arrests, and put other people in jail. So, can Diddy get a 5K letter and a proffer if he has information on other individuals? Absolutely, but the government's got to agree to even do it. So he's got to have information on something that they give a shit about, where they feel that it's worthy to give him a proffer. Because if they give him a proffer, he can kind of say things and they can't do anything about it.
Hey, by the way, I wanted to throw this to you. I got to see if he authorized me to kind of, I'm not necessarily fully doxing him here, but okay. This is my man, and I don't know if you want me to say his name, but he's you guys would probably know who he is. This is 6ix9ine, and by the way, he's a chat nigga too. Like, this is my guy. I think he's in the Discord. I treat my boy right, man. This is 6ix9ine head security during when everything happened. He says, "Yo, bro, I was there when all the trucks were surveilling us. They followed us everywhere. He said they basically stalked us. By the way, keep in mind, this is the time where the feds had picked 6ix9ine up first. They pulled him into a meeting. They say, hey, listen, we have information that you might be targeted and you might be possibly attacked by other members of the gang. Do you want us to give you protection? And that was almost like a soft way of trying to see
So here's the thing. I actually did a whole talk on this.
Go ahead.
On my Fed reaction, and actually I'll give it to you even so.
Oh, and by the way, the last thing, and I'll throw it over to you after. The last thing he said I was there during the hits and everything, and he says he knows for a fact they tapped his phone too. All
right,
go ahead.
So let's go ahead and go through this, right? So I actually know this very intimately, right? Because at the time, right, when I was working for the agency, I had a Chinese organized crime case, and I went up to New York, and I actually met with some of the agents from the HSI New York office case, HSI New York, and this was right after they had picked up 6ix9ine, and I kind of figured this out from talking to them, and then also I worked in the HSI New Haven office, and I knew agents there as well. So here's a story with this situation. 6ix9ine was going to go to the casinos in Connecticut. For those that are unaware, we got Foxwoods and Mohegan, right, which is over on Eastern Connecticut, right? And at the time, the feds were listening to, or HSI, they were listening to, if I'm not mistaken, Mel Murder's phone or Jim Jones. They were listening to somebody.
Yeah, I think it was Mel Murder who spoke to Jim Jones. Yes, go ahead.
There you go. So they were listening to Mel Murder's phone, and from and I know this from doing Title IIIs. One of the things that you must do if you hear this on a Title III, if you hear violence gonna occur, you have to notify the individuals whose life is threatened if you listen to it on the phone. Now, obviously, this sucks because now you're kind of disclosing that you might be having a wiretap, right? So you have to kind of go about it in a creative way to not disclose it. So what happened
hold on. So and by the way, that infamous call, it was a conversation, and I won't play it here, not to bore the audience, but the conversation, Jim Jones, I believe, told Mel Murder, you have to supervise. So as a federal agent, how do you know that means kill? Because super violate means what?
Yeah, I mean, you super violate, you already know. You're listening to that on a wiretap, you're like, okay, this is a threat against his life. Because at this point, 6ix9ine was kind of on the outs with them. I think he had just
all
done
the way
that
on the
thing.
outs. He just did a Breakfast Club interview saying that he's by himself. He re-recorded lyrics saying he don't need nobody. Yes.
So he said he fired his whole crew, etc. Now, what a lot of people don't know was he was actually planning to go to Connecticut, right, and go gamble at the casinos. Now, from an agent's perspective, this is a fucking nightmare, right? Because on one end, you're listening to Mel Murder's phone, the main target of your investigation, and you literally heard a credible threat against Tekashi's life. So you have to go notify him. So what do? They go tell him, look, bro, there's a threat against your life. I doubt that they told him that we're on a wiretap or any of the other shit. They're just like, look, we got information that there's a threat on your life. We need you to do X, Y, Z. 6ix9ine, being the rambunctious person he is, he says, no, fuck that shit. I don't need y'all protection. Like, fuck that. I'm a rapper. Like, I can't be seen with y'all. This is a career ender. Fuck that. Right? And obviously he had a plan to go to Connecticut to gamble at the casino. Now, from an agent perspective, there's two things you can do. A, you find a way to get him arrested to protect himself from himself, or B, right, you let him go to Connecticut and you have to maintain surveillance on him the whole time to make sure he doesn't get fucking killed. Well, for those that are unaware, in Connecticut, Mohegan and Foxwoods, it's on sovereign Native American territory. So now...
Wow, what does that mean?
So it's run by the tribal police. They have their own law enforcement there.
Does the Fed supersede that?
Well, this is where it gets this. So this is the thing. You can go in there, of course. You can, obviously, you're a federal agent, but you now have to notify the tribal police that you're going to be there, you're going to be conducting surveillance, etc., and kind of the situation. Feds don't like to notify the state and locals if they don't need to, especially on a high-profile case like this. Now, what makes this even more of a nightmare is the New York field office now has to go into what's called a different area of responsibility. Mohegan is going to be considered, Mohegan's Son and Foxwoods, etc., that's going to be covered by HSI New Haven and HSI Hartford. Well, I'll tell y'all right now, those are two small field offices, maybe 20, 30 agents total in the state, right? They're not going to be able to effectively cover this guy on surveillance and you got to take HSI New York agents and follow them as well. So that's a fucking logistical nightmare to not only follow 6ix9ine all the way to Connecticut and make sure that he's safe, but now you got to notify the tribal police and let them know, yo, you know, we're going to be in your AOR doing surveillance on this individual, blah, blah, blah. They're like, man, fuck this shit. This is a nightmare. And if something happens, God forbid, there is a shootout, some bloods or anything else like that, follow him to the casino, and there's a shooting and anyone gets hurt, and the feds knew about it, bro, that's a fucking PR nightmare. So they're like, you know what? Fuck this shit. We're just going to arrest them. That's why if you look at the indictment, it's kind of rushed. When they went ahead and picked up 6ix9ine and all these other guys, I think they kind of picked them up to, well, obviously he was involved in criminal activity, but I think what their strategy was to arrest him later on.
Yeah,
but they had to avoid the violence. Save himself. They had to save him from himself.
Hey,
that's my question.
So, okay. Wow.
Yeah, you got some insight there.
No. Hey, we love the insight. I want to ask you this question. And I think this is probably on the minds of everybody watching, and you know, to the tens of thousands watching you and even watching me. And by the way, if you guys don't know, I'm live, you know, with my guys from Fresh and Fish. Shout out to my man Fresh, and also of course shout out to Myron Gaines. If you guys don't know, Myron Gaines is a former law enforcement officer that worked with the federal government in the exact roles of the agents who are now investigating and subsequently have arrested Sean P. Diddy Combs tonight. What do you think tonight? Because here's the thing. We think of Diddy as the take that toothpick in the mouth, bougie. Like, yo, he got the Star Island crib. He got the $60 million crib in motherfucking LA. He has the private jet. What is tonight like? And again, I don't know if you're familiar with like the intake system necessarily in New York, but like, what is it like having somebody who, you know, the media is clamoring to know details, but he's gonna be probably spending, I would hope, or not hope, but I would probably guess he's gonna spend the night tonight in jail. What's tonight like? As an agent, what's tonight like for him? What conditions is he in? Is he actually in a cell? Is he handcuffed? Or is he chilling in a room just kind of eating, you know what I mean, eating, you know, potato chips and just kind of watching this while his lawyers are kind of hammering out the details? What's tonight like for him?
This is what I think. Okay, so this is what happened. I guarantee you this will happen. He gets arrested, right? Either by the case agent or people that are watching him on surveillance. They take him to the New York HSI office, bring him into the interview room. The case agent walks in, hey, look, you know, these are your rights, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to talk? More than likely, I'm willing to bet he's going to say, no, I'm not talking without an attorney present. At that point, you know, the case agent could kind of decide if he wants to let the attorney come in and they can have that discussion, or he says, you know what, fuck it, we're going to book him in. They probably took him to one of the federal facilities. I think there's one in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken, FDC Brooklyn or something like that. Drop him off there. They're probably going to put him in protective custody for obvious reasons. He's going to be by himself. The case agent is going to probably get all his stuff together and be in court tomorrow morning.
Cuffs? I'm sorry to cut you off, because like these details matter, because sometimes we think, like for example, when we seen Trump, right? Like there's no proof that Trump actually got put in cuffs, right? He takes like it's almost like a selfie, like it's the mugshot. Like what's happening? Is Diddy getting treated like the rest of these motherfucking citizens in New York? Is he getting cuffed in the front? Is he get cuffed in the back? Is he getting put in a car? Is he getting put in a paddy wagon? Is he just getting put in a plane, in an unmarked car? Like, what do you think this is looking like? What's the privilege like for a billionaire?
I'll tell you exactly how this went down. So they arrested him at the lobby. Hey, look, man, we got a warrant for your arrest, etc.
Cuffs?
Just, you know, probably cuffed him in the front, walk him out quietly.
Okay.
Right? They're going to have an unmarked parked out there ready to go. They put him in the back of the car, drive him over to the New York office in New York City for HSI. You know, obviously, I'm assuming the case.
And I hate to cut you up, but I like to get to the nitty gritties. Okay, we know Diddy's being flanked by security, this and third. Are they showing up with a little bit of force? Because you never know. He might have two armed.
Fuck off. They're telling security, fuck off. We got an arrest warrant for him right here. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay.
His security can't do shit.
So security can't follow. It's going to be a stand down. Let's do this quietly, or this could be embarrassing.
Exactly, right? And, and I'm assuming that's how you would go about it if you want him to cooperate and talk to you. That's why I'm saying, like me, right? If I'm the case agent, I'm gonna have my guys approach nice and quiet. Hey, look, bro, because they're in plain clothes. Keep in mind, these are special agents. These are federal agents. They're in plain fucking clothes. Go up to them. Look, man, we got a warrant for your arrest. HSI. Boom. Look, let's just do this quietly. We'll cuff you in the front, or you just walk out with us. We'll cuff you right by the car. Tell the security to stand down. Put him in the vehicle. Case agent's probably either there on scene when he's getting arrested, right, to see if they can get any spontaneous utterances, which is spontaneous utterance is where they say something, right, spontaneously that can be used in court, right, without the Miranda rights being read, which the Miranda rights is you have the right to remain silent, blah, 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 all this other shit, which you have to read to them when they're being arrested. So he might make a spontaneous utterance, whatever. Oh, fuck, man, they got me, some other bullshit like that. You can use that, right? So they put him in the car. Case agent's probably there asking him questions. Hey,
Wait,
blah, blah, blah.
wait, hold on. Chat, I know y'all hate with me cutting him off. Wait, you could use a spontaneous utterance without reading the Miranda rights?
Yeah, so like when you arrest somebody, and this happens all the time when I was on the job, you arrest somebody, right? And they're like, fuck, I knew this fucking asshole got me jammed up. Or, oh, fuck, this fucking dude lied to me. Or like whatever. Like when you get him picked up, you can use that because he said a spontaneous utterance and you didn't ask him no questions.
Wow. I don't think that's well known. Oh wow, that's very interesting. Okay.
You can, I've gotten people all the time with that where you're going to go arrest them and they'll make some comments like this fucking asshole set me up.
Like fuck, they snitched on me. Like you can use that.
Yeah, yeah, you can use, you can absolutely use that, man. Yeah. And then obviously you read them his rights after the fact before you ask any questions, but you can absolutely use spontaneous utterances when they're being arrested. So as the case agent, you'd want to be there when that happens, or you send two of your guys that you really trust to effect the arrest, and then you ask him, hey, did he say anything when you picked him up? So they probably bring him out to the car. They want him to cooperate, right? And a lot of the time, federal agents are going to be really cool with you because they want to get a statement, right? They're not going to fucking throw you to the floor and all the other bullshit. They're going to do it nice and quietly, not try to embarrass you, right? Their job is to take away your freedom, not your dignity, right? Especially if they want to get a statement from you. So they put you in the car. Case agent's probably there. Reads him his Miranda real quick. Asks him some questions. Maybe make some small talk, whatever it may be. Then they get him back to the office. Hey, you want to talk? No, I want a lawyer. Okay, no problem. We're going to start getting you ready for the U.S. Marshals, right? Because the way it works in the federal system is when you have someone arrested federally, right? Sometimes and we're really getting in the weeds here, but I'll explain it anyway. So the U.S. Marshals a lot of times have contracts with local jails to hold bodies for them that are federal custody. Now, in a place like New York City, which is big, they might not necessarily need that. So you might just take them right to the federal detention center, right? And there's going to be marshals there that will book them, fingerprint them, put them into NCIC, all that other stuff, right? And then they'll put them in there. And then the next morning, right? Sometimes there'll be an arrangement with the marshals or the agent himself. You got to go pick them up and then take them to court in front of the magistrate. But in this case, a big city like that, more than likely, they probably have a streamlined system. The marshals probably bring them to the courthouse for you, and then you're just there for the initial appearance.
Okay. Two questions. Oh, go ahead, Fresh.
Real quick. So our guy is here, David Green. Mm-hmm. He's a real estate expert. So we're thinking about buying Diddy's mansion. It's for sale right now, bro. It's on the market right now for sale, brother. What you want, nigga? You want to buy this house or not?
Well, okay, all right. I gotta get like a notepad, like Myron, because you just brought up another point, which I think is a great point to bring up. So, by the way, there was an erroneous, I think it's erroneous, lawsuit filed, and even there was a, what do you call it again? It was a it was an order that was actually signed by a judge. Basically, it was like an injunctive order, like basically. Saying that, hey, his properties are subject to maybe the worth of what he has that could be the subject of a civil suit, and some inmate, which I think this is bullshit, but this inmate filed two things. He filed a lawsuit against Diddy, which, by the way, he got a do you guys know what I'm talking about or not? Because I could bring it up. Inmate.
I'm not familiar with this.
Yes, so an inmate got a default judgment, right, of $100 million in Michigan. Some random inmate. So He got $100 million judgment in Michigan. Obviously, now his lawyer, I guess his lawyers didn't know about it. Somehow they finessed it where they convinced the court that it was served properly. Diddy never heard of it. Now Diddy's lawyers saying they're gonna, contest it. But not only did they get the default judgment, which obviously Diddy's lawyers are gonna go to vacate, they went to go get like an injunctive order from that judge to say his property, the Homely Hills one that he's trying to sell for like 60 or 70 million, cannot be sold because that will be the subject of compensation barring the result of this case, which the guy already got a judgment for, which is $100 million. So basically saying until further proceedings, they wanted the judge to block that sale or any potential sale. Obviously,
I'm not familiar with that. I know you said you had two questions though from before. I know Fresh literally detracted from what you were trying to ask. What was the two questions you were asking?
Yeah, I should have wrote it down. Okay. So,
I was describing to you how the marshals take the guys, how the feds would pick him up, try to get an interview.
Perfect.
Drag him off to the marshals, and then you said you had two questions. And Fresh totally derailed everything.
No, but he's asking a good question too. But okay, so I think
this real estate question. What the hell?
Thanks, Akademiks.
Nothing to do with the marshals, man.
My boy.
This guy, man.
I think a lot of people, even me, I promise you, I'm having just even thinking about the situation, the way we look at Diddy and how powerful he is, we almost want to see, even when they raided his crib when he was in Miami, they met him at, I forgot the private airport. We never seen him in cuffs. We never seen him treated, even like how we seen his sons or maybe like the workers at his crib being treated. And a lot of people think this is billionaire privilege. So I guess it goes to two questions. How certain are you tonight that Diddy is actually in a jail cell?
Right? 1,000%. He's probably marshal custody right now when we speak, or he's talking with the feds if he's cooperating.
So you think 100% he is in some jail cell in New York City like any other inmate?
Guaranteed. I mean, hell, we might even be able to. I don't know if BOP. No, the BOP website might not have it, but yeah, he's definitely either A, cooperating and talking with the feds right now, or B, he's in a jail cell in New York City somewhere, probably maybe FDC Brooklyn or some shit like that, or in Manhattan, depending on wherever the marshals have their contract with holding federal prisoners.
Okay, and by the way, I'm looking that up as we speak. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. I will ask you this, and by the way, I just looked it up. It says no records found. I just looked up the.
He hasn't been committed to Bureau of Prisons. Yeah, he's in marshal custody.
Okay, yeah, I looked up through the.
After you've been sentenced.
Yeah, I looked up through the New York City Department of Corrections. Usually, even if they're in, so the popular intake place in New York is what's called the Tombs, especially Manhattan, and usually you would see that person in there, and we figure out where they go from there. Even if
federal, right? Because they probably have a contract with the marshals.
Yes, because Casanova used to be able to used to at a certain point. I'm not saying initially. At a certain point, you could be able to find him through there, but we can't find anything with Diddy yet. Second of all, here's the second question. You spoke about how the arrest probably went down. Now, you being an agent and kind of mapping out these things, Diddy's obviously cooperating to a certain extent. He comes to a New York City high rise. What level of force do you go in with? Because
very little.
The level of force we saw in Miami and even LA, it looked like they were ready for, and obviously they defended that. We seen Diddy's baby mama said, "Hey, why'd you need all that? Why'd you have the gun to, my son's head or this and third?" And basically they said, "Well, we hear there's a lot of weapons, and we had to whatever." In this situation, you're planning the arrest. How much force are you going in with, and how do you determine?
Little to none. And the reason why is because if you want them to cooperate and talk to you, you can't go in and fuck them up and expect them to talk to you. So for the arrest, you're going to go in very very quietly, very covertly, especially someone like this that has a public image. You don't want to embarrass them. You want to kind of like, hey, man, we're going to do you solid. We're not going to cuff you up in front of everybody, right? Maybe they did. Who knows? It depends on how the interaction went. But if I'm the case agent and I want to get cooperation, I'm not going to go in there and arrest the guy crazy, because that could really mess things up. Now, as far as the search warrant goes, because you said that they went and used. So, okay, let me explain this, because people kind of understand. When you're conducting a search warrant, right? And you're looking for evidence of a crime in a house, right? Depending on the individual, that's going to kind of dictate how you proceed with doing the search warrant. Now, when you're doing a search warrant, the number one thing that you need to do is you need to clear the house first. Then you get agents in there to actually search, right? So first you got to do the sweep, make sure there's nobody in there. Anybody that is in there, you zip time, get them the hell out the house, make sure it's completely safe. Then you bring the agents in that are a part of the investigative team to do it. But the people that are going to go in and clear the house is, in this case, it was the SRT, Special Response Team, right? That's their SWAT team. So if I'm the case agent, I'm not going to do I prefer to let the SRT handle it, clear the house, especially a big structure like that, make sure it's safe. Then I send the guys in my group that are helping me with this investigation and know what to look for. Then they go in and start searching it. So it's two different teams of agents kind of that are dealing with the search warrant. So first is the clearing from the tactical side. Once that's done, then you get the actual agents that are involved in the case and have a stake in the case to go in and actually search. So, that's just kind of how search warrants are done, right? And then if you know that the individual might have guns in the house, there's going to be certain people there, whatever it may be, you're going to actually, you're going to operate with a certain level of, carefulness to make sure that no one's hurt. But after it's clear, you're good to go. So that's what ends up happening. It's always where you want to use a strong use of force to kind of like disincentivize anyone to do anything stupid. If you go in there with the SRT team, they're going to be like, oh yeah, fuck that. I'm not going to fight these guys.
So it was reported on TMZ that not only did they arrest him, but they also went in and they are executing a search. Well, they didn't say search warrant, but they're searching the hotel room he was in. What do you think? Do they really believe that maybe he has some incriminating evidence in his hotel room, or is that just standard procedure?
Yeah, I mean, they probably got a consent to search, right? Since he's at that hotel, I doubt that they actually cut paper on a search warrant to go in there. They probably said, hey, look, man, up in your room, do you need anything that you need to get with you, personal belongings, whatever? He might have said, yeah, I do. They escort him up there. Maybe they ask him, hey, do you mind if we search, make sure it's safe, like no one's in here hiding? And they could go ahead and do a search. So, I'm assuming it's a consent to search or search incident to arrest, and bringing him up there to get any belongings you might want.
Wow. So in the morning, this indictment is going to be,
it'll be unsealed, and we'll see exactly what he's looking at. I predict it's going to be sex trafficking with racketeering, but they can add other stuff. We'll see what happens.
Is it a possibility that he gets out tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I think him and his legal team have planned for this. I think that's why they've been cooperating with the feds. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'll take it a step further. I think that's why he's even in New York right now. We know that he spends most of his time in Miami. His main home is here. So I think a whole part of him even being in New York in the first place was he knew that these charges were going to come down. There was probably some type of communication between the AUSA and his defense team, and he said, I'm going to make it easier for y'all. I'm here. And this is all to lead up to this arrest so that he can go ahead and argue in court and say, look, I've been nothing but cooperative. The feds have known where I was the whole time. My legal team has been in close communication with the United States Attorney's Office. I am not a flight risk. I'm not a danger to society. I want to be out on bond fighting this case. And I think he's going to have a good chance of getting bond.
All right. So two things. And I'll give you guys an update if you guys don't know. So one of his, I'll call her a girlfriend. I'll be nice today. Young Miami, Carisha. She hit me up. She said, hey, we should have a conversation. She said she wants to talk about everything, no holds bar, about her career, everything I've said about her. I've had a lot of commentary about what I thought about her music career and maybe some sacrifices that she made for her music career because she wanted to be in a relationship with a guy who could be seen as a sugar daddy, right?
City girls.
We were going to plan a time to do a Carisha Please episode, which, I talked to Fresh about. Fresh was like, Ak, you sure you good? I said, listen, I've walked into the Lions Den many times. I have no problems. By the way, to her credit, she said, all right, we're going to touch back up on this. I'm still waiting for the date. I'm down to show up anytime. She did do an interview, though, or did do a episode of her show where, she did it with her homosexual best friend, Saucy Santana. And he asked her some questions about this whole thing. And what she basically said was, hey, listen, I don't know too much of anything, blah, 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 this and third. However, there is a huge overlap with her and Diddy in the last, I want to say 3 years, to be generous. Is it possible that maybe this indictment comes out and is just all legacy things that has nothing to do with anything that happened in the last couple of years? Or do you think they still try to tie at least some recent stuff into what he was doing in terms of his behavior?
Yeah, I could definitely answer that. Real quick, I just want to tell my audience this. Guys, we're going to switch on over to Twitch, so come on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Fresh and Fit Podcast. We're going to go on Twitch. We're on YouTube right now and Rumble, but come on over to Twitch, guys, if you're watching on YouTube. We'll drop the link in there. We're going to switch right now, but I'll answer this question. So the question is, are there going to be recent events with potentially Young Miami or any other co-conspirators or any other witnesses in this indictment? I think so, yeah, for sure. They're going to have something in there recent that at least kind of aligns with the statute of limitations, because they're going to need to prove that the criminal activity is still going on. That's a very important part of RICO, is establishing that it's an ongoing criminal enterprise. If you look at any RICO indictment, right, whether you look at the 691 one, you look at the Casanova one, etc., the first paragraph almost always is them talking about the organization being defined as a criminal enterprise, right? So whether it was the Nine Trey Gangsta Bloods or the Gorilla Stone Bloods from the Casanova situation, they're going to, define Diddy's organization as an enterprise first. Then they're going to show, look, this is an enterprise. They've been doing this since the 80s or the 90s. And then they're going to start displaying all the racketeering activities or criminal activities that have been going on since then all the way up until now. And then there'll be something probably recent within the last 5 to 10 years in the indictment. That's the most recent. But that's the whole, they're going to definitely have something in there that's somewhat recent so that they can establish that this has been a pattern of criminal activity.
Okay. We're jumping ahead a little bit ahead here, but obviously, again, for anybody who's watching, this is pretty much, it's not ground zero, but moment zero. If we hear about the arrest, we don't know what's in the indictment. We're going to hear about that in the morning. We'll have a fully unsealed indictment, we hope, that we could break down. So we're just going off what we think. At what point, when a suspect is taken into custody, does conversation about maybe a potential plea start?
It can be immediately, depending on the individual, how much they're cooperating, how much their defense team is involved in a situation like this, where it seems that Diddy's had defense from the beginning and they've been coordinating with the prosecution and the AUSA. These are conversations that can be had almost immediately, especially if the person's cooperative. I mean, when you see people being charged with something called an information versus an indictment, 9 out of 10 times that's because they've already kind of ironed out a plea deal and the person is cooperating with the government, which is why they got hit with the information versus a formal indictment. But I predict that there's already been talks of them potentially pleading out to something. So we'll only see, right? But we'll have to see. We'll see how fast the case kind of moves along in Pacer. But I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a deal already worked out of him pleading to something.
Really? So you don't think this is going to be a long knock him down type of case where they're like, hey, let's spend the first 3 months hammering out discovery. Let's then angle towards what we're going to do. Let's take some additional time. Let's figure out a trial date. You don't think it's going to be that slow?
Well, here's the thing. So good question. If he gets bond, they're going to drag their feet, right? If he gets bond, there's no reason to make it a speedy trial. They don't need to do that because he's out and he's free. So there's no need to do that. But if he doesn't get bond, which I do think he'll get bond.
House
then
arrest
obviously
or no house arrest?
They're gonna. What was that?
How? So okay, let's say he gets bonded. What does that look like? He could go and be like, "Hey, listen, I was flying around the United States, and I still came here for the indictment, and I turned myself in.
Yeah.
I want to be able to travel for work. Okay, I'll have an ankle monitor on, but I could travel for work. Do you think that's a possibility, or they're like, yo, fuck out of here. You're gonna stay your ass in a penthouse or that goddamn Star Island spot in Miami?
Yeah,
And
no, I
does
think
he have
it's
to
very
stay in
possible.
New York? Sorry.
I think it's very probable that he'll get, access to be able to travel for work. You know, given the nature of his work and being a businessman and a musician, I don't think that they would. Maybe they'll put him on an ankle monitor. Maybe they'll give him house arrest if he, if it's really strict. But I don't foresee them saying like, no, you can't travel, especially since his defense team has been so cooperative. I think the whole strategy for them was being cooperative from the beginning because they knew this was coming. So they're going to say, look, we've been cooperative with y'all. We tell you guys everywhere we're traveling. You guys have the flight logs. We tell you guys where we're going ahead of time. Like, obviously, he's a businessman. He's got to generate money, etc. Let him travel. And I think the judge might say, and the AUSA is probably not going to object to that. Probably not going to object.
Real quick, Hype Train Level 5 on Twitch.
Oh,
I just
shout out
gave
to y'all
away
ninjas.
10 subs. Hop on the
Down
Twitch,
to
man. We're going
Marco,
viral right now.
Marco.
Show Academics, man. Let's get it.
Yeah, come on over to Twitch, guys. We're
course.
transitioning. No more live streaming on YouTube, so we're slowly doing it. But does that answer that though? That's what I
of
predict
course.
is going to happen with that.
Do you see, like, obviously we're talking about cooperating, and obviously that's different from like, snitching or whatever, but just, hey, we're accommodating the investigation. We're trying to help because we are quote unquote seemingly innocent. Do you see this get to a point where maybe Diddy's legal team takes the angle that, hey, my client has been attacked, and meaning more combative, like, hey, the AUSAs are targeting my client because of erroneous false civil lawsuits filed by money-hungry people who I've worked with who have just not done well in life, and the AUSA believes these stuff, and they're prosecuting on a very, they're using malintent to try to get at me, and maybe it's just not as, okay, handshaky where, okay, you're working with the AUSA and their office to.
I think what will happen is that's a really good question. So basically, the question is like, how long are they going to play ball for and kind of be nice?
Yeah.
What I predict here is if he gets bond, they're gonna. So here's the thing, right? So obviously, there's going to be the discovery process, right, where the government is going to turn everything over to Diddy's legal team that they got.
Is
right?
there a time limit on that?
Legal team doesn't know what they have yet.
Is there a time limit on that? I'm sorry.
Typically it's within a couple of the discovery process. It's an ever-flowing situation because as the investigation is ongoing, things come up. It's up to the AUSA to get that stuff out immediately. But the evidence that they have that led to the indictment, they're going to hand that over probably tomorrow, right? It's probably on a thumb drive. AUSA is probably ready to go to court tomorrow. Give it to the defense attorney. Here you go. Here's a thumb drive with all the stuff. Go through it, right? So what I predict is after Diddy gets that bond, because they got to play nice with the government so that they can get this bond. Once he's out and he's, on bond, and the defense has the discovery, that's where I think, okay, now it's kind of an adversarial situation now. Let's go through this discovery, see what they got, try to find holes in this. And then that's when they're going to really start formulating their game plan once they have the discovery and see what the feds actually have on Diddy. But I think they'll play ball until he gets the bond. And then from that point, it's going to be a little bit more of a Cold War type situation.
Okay. And again, forgive me for some of the questions I'm asking because they might just seem left field.
These are good questions.
At what point, if I'm Diddy and now I need to be prepared with my legal team, at what point could I probably identify, oh, this person in my organization or this former person I used to be cool with is a snitch? Who's the cooperatives? Would that be probably abundantly clear off of the indictment being unsealed? Or do you have to wait for discovery to be like, wait, the only person that would know this was the engineer who was in the studio, so that person must be snitching? Or so that might be discovery, or maybe you could read the complaint and be like, how the fuck they know that shit?
No, good question. So indictments are almost always more broadly written than criminal complaints are. And for the audience, just so they kind of know, A criminal complaint is affidavit written by this special agent, which literally outlines the case that and the facts that lead to probable cause. They're far more detailed than indictments are, right? And just so you guys know, a criminal complaint, you still have to indict the individual. So a criminal complaint typically is done with a probable cause. Like the example I gave earlier, I catch someone at the border. He has 10 kilo, customs caught him with 10 kilos of coke. I respond to the scene. Obviously we have the evidence right there. I write up a criminal complaint, arrest him, and then within 2 weeks we have to indict him. In indictment, you kind of skip that whole affidavit thing, and then you just go right to the grand jury, indict it, and then you get an arrest warrant, go get him, right? So everyone has to be indicted at some point at the federal level if you're going to be criminally charged. So, shit. What was it?
The question is, how do we find the snitches? Because we know they're cooperants.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the affidavit, that's why I was explaining this. In the affidavit, it's a lot easier to identify cooperators and informants because the agent himself is outlining the probable cause in his affidavit, and a lot of the times it's very difficult for you to shield that. You have to disclose informants to some degree unless you got an overwhelming amount of evidence where you didn't even need to put the informant stuff in. But typically the informant stuff is what leads to the probable cause. So the affidavit will be able to reveal it. Now in this case with the indictment, the indictments are typically more broadly written. So he could go ahead and read it, right, and kind of connect some dots here or there. But it's not going to be as easy to tell with an indictment. However, when they get the discovery, all of the HSI reports are going to be in there. Then that's when he'll be able to know who's who and who said what, etc. Because when they get those reports, because the agents have to disclose all the ROIs, HSI calls them ROIs, reports of investigation, that's where Diddy and his team will be able to read those HSI reports, and they'll see all the witness interviews, and they'll know who is who, and that's going to come from the discovery.
Yeah, this is gonna be very, very interesting.
So he'll know who turned on him within the first month or so, easily.
Wow. But you do think he's gonna get some type of at least initial bond?
Yeah, I predict he'll get bond. I do predict he'll get bond. I think his legal team is gonna fight like hell for it. It might be an ankle monitor, like you mentioned, where he can't leave his house or whatever, but I don't think they're gonna put him in jail. And then another argument they're probably going to make is his life is in danger, safety issues. He's a celebrity. It's going to cause stress to the jail, to put him in private custody the whole time. It just works out better for everyone to have him just be on house arrest or to be out on bond. And I think he has a very good chance of doing that.
Speaking of which,
it might not tomorrow necessarily, but I think if he doesn't get it tomorrow, he'll probably have an official bond hearing within a few days, and I think at that bond hearing, assuming he doesn't get out tomorrow, he'll be able to get out.
Speaking of which, back in November, right, the NYPD claimed they had no knowledge of any. This was after I think someone erroneously said that, the NYPD's investigating it. They came out and said, we have no knowledge of any investigation going on against Diddy. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the NYPD, I would imagine, and you could tell me if you know, they probably work a little bit in line with the Southern District of New York and Homeland Security and FBI or whoever else. Do you think they just lied to the public? Because they said they had no investigation. 2 months later, the investigation started, and 2 months after that, so 4 months after, Diddy's house is getting raided. You think they lied?
Technically, no, and I'll tell you why. I guess I'll explain this whole concept. So, when you do criminal investigations, there's a state level and there's a federal level, right? And NYPD is going to have detectives assigned to federal agencies under task forces, and these detectives are going to be deputized as what's called a TFO or a task force officer. And what that basically means is, let's say I'm an NYPD detective, right? And I have state authority, but I get assigned to a Joint Terrorism Task Force, FBI task force, right? I get a set of FBI credentials. I am now not only a state detective, but now I am effectively a federal agent. So I have all the same authorities as the FBI special agent. I have the authorities to conduct investigations federally. I can carry my firearm on planes. I can travel interstate because I'm working with the FBI as a task force officer. So not only can I do a traffic stop if I fucking wanted to and put on a uniform and charge you for state charges, I can also conduct federal investigations, right? Same thing with DEA, same thing with HSI. So HSI has task force officers that are from NYPD, from New York State Police, from fire marshal, like for all different places, right? And these guys have not only customs authority, right, with which HSI gives them, because HSI is legacy U.S. Customs and Immigration. They also have their state authority. So what? And I say all this to say, the highest levels of brass, right, know, and at the NYPD know that they have detectives that work on these federal law enforcement task forces, but they're not privy to all the investigations that they're involved in, right, for obviously security purposes. So the only person a lot of times that knows what that detective is involved in is probably maybe his direct chain of command, right? His sergeant that's over him or his lieutenant will know he's assigned to the FBI JTTF or Joint Terrorism Task Force. He's involved with this stuff. Sometimes they might not even know everything that he's involved in. So because that detective is reporting to an FBI special agent, supervisory special agent, and that's effectively his supervisor over at the FBI. His other supervisor over at the NYPD kind of just like signs his time cards and shit like that, but he might not necessarily know what he's doing, because when you're on a federal task force, the rules kind of change. So in a way, the NYPD isn't lying by saying we don't have an active investigation, because that is true. There's an active investigation at the feds, but the brass a lot of times doesn't even know this stuff. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I guess a joint question. And I know I'm throwing a lot. At you. I appreciate
a lot of people have these questions, so it's the first time I think, because there ain't nobody on YouTube that's done the shit that I've done. Not to sound cocky or anything like that, but when it comes to the federal stuff, I know exactly how every agency works. So I've worked with all of them very closely. Pause.
Level 8 hype train on Twitch right now. Let's go, baby.
All right, we lit. We definitely lit.
Hey, you can't beat me, bro. Blackest Panther, you can't beat me.
Okay, so
all right, go back. Sorry.
I'm just trying to think here. So if we're dealing with, so two things come to mind, and I want you to try to compare it. I don't know how much you're well versed in these other cases. We obviously seen the R. Kelly situation.
Yep.
We also seen Harvey Weinstein. So Harvey Weinstein, I believe he had either got one case like overturned or dismissed. I don't know if it was in New York. But what happened is they came back with another grand jury indictment for his ass. It's like almost they're like, nah, nigga. You're not getting out of this one. You're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. Obviously for obvious reasons, we get why these are heinous crimes. These are crimes that, the public has a significant interest in. They're making sure that these individuals, if we think about R. Kelly, he was charged in just multiple precincts and districts and places in the country where like he's serving multiple times. He won't be out for a very long time. Harvey Weinstein is a person who, based on how he was charged and even criminally convicted, at least initially, he was never supposed to get out. And even when he had maybe a slight victory, the Southern District of New York, they indicted him again, I believe, like very shortly. I think they're about to hit him with the arraignment and the unsealing of the new indictment. But basically, they're trying to tell him, you're never getting out. How much would you think, obviously we talked about the amount of money they spent in terms of the Diddy situation and how they investigated it. How much do you think that they're hell-bent on saying, Diddy, you're fucking done? You're gonna just spend the rest of your time in jail, hiding the honey bun. You know what I mean? Like you're done, gang. Like it's over. Like because they definitely felt that way about Harvey Weinstein. And by the way, I don't think this is a black or white thing. I think they're just like, yo, this is a matter of public interest. People want to see this motherfucker in jail. We're a failure if we allow this person to beat us at all.
Yeah. No. I mean, they're always, these are cases that kind of like, tug at the heartstrings, right? So people are going to be like, oh yeah, sex trafficking, etc., or crimes against women. They're always going to be looked at pretty seriously. And then as far as like R. Kelly goes, he was actually, I just double checked it, he actually got indicted by the Eastern District of New York, which they're also very aggressive because they compete with the Southern District of New York. They're based out of Brooklyn. I've worked with them before as well. They're also a good United States Attorney's Office. But yeah, man, I mean, at the federal level, especially when they come after you for anything, especially like a human trafficking case or a RICO or any of this other stuff, they're looking to put you away for a very long time. These are very serious charges. The fact that they convened the grand jury for as long as they did, the fact that they did this investigation as long as they did, the fact that they're using racketeering to bring in some of these allegations from the fucking 90s and early 2000s, I think that goes to show how serious they are as far as like pursuing this investigation. So they're looking at it like, look, Diddy, we got you so dead to rights. You're going to have to come to the table and plead guilty to something here that's still going to give you a significant amount of time.
By the way, for people who are wondering what the cases I referenced, so Harvey Weinstein, historical creep, he was initially found guilty of, he had an R-word conviction, but it got overturned by the New York Court of Appeal. The reason being is that they said that his trial was unfair because there were women who testified about their dealings with him, but some of the dealings that they were testifying to were never criminally charged or never, litigated in any court of law. So they believe that gave a unfair advantage to the prosecutor. So they threw out his conviction. And, Myron can speak to this after I'm done. Like, hey, a lot of times if you get the appeal court throws your shit out, like throws out a conviction, it takes money to convict this shit. They might be like, all right, fuck it. At least you serve some time, whatever. They convened a grand jury for Harvey Weinstein mid-August, and they got a goddamn another indictment for his ass by the end of August. So, again, that shows that they're determined to make sure, at least, and by the way, he has other convictions, but in New York, they want people to know we're not letting this fucking creep off the goddamn hook. And I'm wondering how they're going to treat Diddy related to that aspect.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to go hard on him. And the fact that it's federal is going to be even worse. And keep in mind, the whole Weinstein thing was only state.
Yep.
So
Facts. Yep.
that was them just aggressively pursuing him at the state level, right? So at the federal level, it's a wrap, man. And like I said before, like going out whenever they go after famous people or people that have status or whatever it may be, they know that these individuals have the capability of paying for a good defense team. They have the resources, etc. So they're going to cross their T's and dot their I's a lot of the times, especially at the federal level. So, yeah, no, I mean, this situation with Diddy, I mean, me and you predicted this a couple months back. I remember when we first spoke about this, when he first got raided back in March or something. Like I literally predicted, last quarter of the year or early 2025, look for the indictment. They're gonna arrest him, and boom, here we are, right? Mid-September, and he's getting arrested sooner than I ever predicted. But yeah, man, it's just they're absolutely gonna make an example out of him in this situation. Anytime you got a celebrity or a rapper or something like that, Southern District of New York, they love these big high-profile cases. I mean, keep in mind, this is the U.S. Attorney's Office that famously prosecuted La Cosa Nostra, right? When they were untouchable at the time. Rudy Giuliani famously, and was one of the first prosecutors to successfully use RICO. The Southern District of New York is what kind of pioneered that. So this is an office that has a lot of prestige, has a lot of image. HSI New York, from the agency standpoint, that's one of our busiest field offices, man. They're a very proud office. For a funny story, the agent that was in charge of HSI New York when 6ix9ine got arrested used to be the special agent in charge of Puerto Rico, which was the busiest field office in the country. So they're a very go-getter active office, HSI New York, and then you combine that with a very go-getter active United States Attorney's Office, which, like I told you before, some of the historical cases they've done, it's not looking good for Diddy, man. This is probably the worst U.S. Attorney's Office to take your case, and one of the worst agencies to be investigating you, for sure.
Okay, I might sound a little bit cynical, but what is the potential chance of maybe Diddy going in either with his lawyer or however it is and says, hey, listen, keep my kids out of it. Keep any woman I've dealt with out of it. Hey, listen, just put it all on me. Not saying he's admitting guilt, but he tries to protect other people, because I'm right now monitoring everyone's socials. I'm trying to see is anyone going to comment on this? Are they in custody? We don't know. And I'm looking kind of at his sons a little bit too, right? Like, not necessarily do I think that they were with all the fuckery that he was in, but of recent times we hear the stories that he was sharing women with his kids. You know what I mean? Which is like, goddamn. You know what I mean? Like if you and your son got to smash the same girl, fuck it, right? But
yeah, no, that's definitely on some weirdo shit. Yeah, I mean,
is it a possibility to say? It's like, imagine we're in a car, right? And I'm like the criminal of the bunch, and I'm like, nah, it's my guns. All 3 guns is my guns. Don't charge nobody. Do you think Diddy is the person to be like, yo, listen, whatever it is, put it on me. Leave my sons alone.
I mean, the thing is that he could do that, but like the feds are going to be the ones to decide what they do and don't do. Like, you don't have as much like wiggle room and leverage to kind of dictate these terms with them. Like, they're going to prosecute who they want to prosecute, right? So that's kind of what it is. I predict that, he's their main guy. So he's who they want to go after. He's going to have to give up someone incredibly famous and powerful for them to even give him any type of, give him a break on this case. Which, by the way, we're level 11 hype train, guys. Twitch.tv/Frustrated Podcast. Open up a tab while you're watching Akademiks if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Right.
please. Go support my guys. If you don't know, man, my guys, Fresh and Fit, they're my boys. And, of course, support my man, Myron. A guy who's just super talented, multifaceted, not only when it comes to dating, obviously fitness, but he is a wizard when it comes to speaking about, I believe, politics and also anything that constitutes the law. So, wow,
Yeah,
we've talked about this a bunch, bro. We've talked about this a bunch.
This guy in Twitch, right?
Yeah.
Blackest Panther is trying to outdo me. I just give 90 subs on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
He give 100 subs. But you know what I'm gonna do right now? I'm gonna get 50 subs right now on stream. 150 subs on Twitch.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Wait, Black Panther.
Wait, hold on. Y'all having a sub battle?
Yes, bro. Bro, it's black for black. I'm black for black, black for black. He's black too. I'm black too. I'll black him, bro. Watch this.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, because now we're transitioning right now from YouTube live streaming to Twitch, so that's kind of what it is. But no, I mean, now I used to breed this stuff, bro. Like I was an agent for 7 years, and I did all types of investigations. Like I truly used to love this shit. So, the reason why I know so much is because I would purposely work with other agencies. I was always fascinated to see how the DEA works versus the FBI, or how the FBI works differently than ATF. How FBI agents write their 302s versus DEA agents write their DEA 6s, right? So I was always very interested in how different agencies work and working with different agencies and kind of leveraging and using different agencies' strengths, right? I used to do something called OCDF cases, Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces cases, right? Where you would work with other agencies and you would get a special designated congressional number for your case, right, from the Department of Justice, and you would get more funding where you can, do a big case like this, which I don't anticipate that this is an OCDF case on this Diddy case, but I think the 6ix9ine case was an OCDF, and I think also the Casanova case was an OCDF. But yeah, man, so this stuff is something that I literally lived and breathed for a very long time. I had the number 1 arrest in 2016 when I was on the southwest border, one of the busiest offices in Laredo, Texas. So when it comes to this stuff, man, I could talk all day. Any question that you got when it comes to how cases are done at a federal level, even at a state level, or prosecutors, all this other stuff, man, this is what I used to do, or how to exploit phones, Title 3s, pen register, trace and traps, ping warrants, all this shit.
Yeah, no, this is so fascinating just based on, who, I'm going to be honest with you, I think in hip-hop wise, we all believe that this is Mr. Untouchable. This is Mr. Untouchable. Yeah. Right? Let me ask you a question, and I'm really treading into the weeds right here. It's cool. You could be like, don't get into cynical land, because this is definitely cynical land. Some people would believe this, and again, I'm warning you. I'm warning your audience. I'm warning my audience. This is cynicism, just up front. So, if we think about the election year of 2008, Diddy was probably the most important person. He started the vote or die movement.
Yeah. Pro Obama.
Again, yeah, of course. That replicated itself in 2012. 2016, he was important, but he didn't do too much, but still, obviously, that was when we saw Donald Trump take office in 2016, and then obviously the subsequent election, we saw then Joe Biden take office. This sounds crazy for me to say because like I'm a rational person most of the time, but do you think that maybe Diddy could have maybe leveraged this ongoing federal shit by maybe being either a little bit more involved or maybe offering up his services to like, hey, listen, Biden, at least Biden at the time, I'm gonna go hard for the to get this black community to, put their vote down for the Democratic Party. And maybe not, I'm not saying it's going to indemnify him of his crimes, but maybe the timing would be a little bit different, right? Because that would be crazy, right? Like if the number one black person that's like, we're going Biden, and subsequently Harris, if that person is fucking getting indicted, that looks crazy, right? Do you think that could potentially have changed anything? Or do you believe that maybe, the advisors for these people just knew down the pipeline, hey, Diddy's fucked, don't touch him, don't go near him? Because I'm going to be honest with you, it's been a little bit alarming. He just hasn't been in front of any of these movements. And we're talking before the lawsuit.
No, that's a good question. I think the important thing here, so I'm going to answer your question, but I'm also going to give the audience something to kind of think about. So I want everybody to know, like when it comes to the federal level, right? Every United States Attorney's Office, special agent in charge, etc., they want to be able to go to Congress at the end of the year and be like, my agency did X, Y, Z. We arrested this many people. We took this much drugs off the street. We seized this much money from illicit activity, etc. They want to be able to go and lobby to get more money for the next fiscal year to continue to have their agency operate, right? And the only way they do that is by showing stats. Law enforcement is dictated by stats. Right. And same thing with the United States Attorney's offices. How many cases did you take on? How many cases did you prosecute? How many cases did you get the guys to plead guilty? Right. Very important. What's the conviction rate? Right. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, knowing that everything is driven by stats and, and affluence and your ability to, arrest big targets and everything else like that. I think if anything, Diddy posturing himself from a political standpoint and saying, I'm going to go ahead and align myself with Biden or whatever. I don't think it would have protected him that much. I think if anything, the more clout and fame you have and the higher up you are, it puts a bigger target on you for the feds to come after you. Because they want to be able to get those headlines and be like, we were the office that successfully indicted XYZ or did 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be. Now, and I know people have their conspiracy theories and everything else like that, which I totally understand and respect, right? But what I will say is, ask yourself this question. Does the government benefit and get clout from putting this guy behind bars and prosecuting him? If the answer is yes, more than likely they're going to actually go for it. That's why they went after Trump. That's why they went after Hunter Biden on the other side. That's why if you look at this assassin that they got that tried to kill Trump yesterday, I think the FBI is going to try to go after him. And
everyone knows every time Diddy's name comes up in something, it's always some freaky issue by the sea, man. Now, in what's new, you feel me? Now, new information is coming out. Diddy lost a lawsuit where he essentially owes $100-something million. That person, I'm not gonna lie, bro, you're never seeing that money. It's sad to say. You're never ever seeing that money ever. Yeah. It's the diddler. You're never seeing that money. Got some of the best lawyers in the world. He's a billionaire, still supposedly. You feel me? He's liquidating his assets now, selling houses and doing all that. But bro, you're not seeing any money. Like Diddy's the only reason he won the case because Diddy just never went to court. That's it. But it's your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how you guys feel about everything. And I'm out.